Yeah, folks, we've got some warrior cards to talk about, including this fabled trio, which I freaking love. These are characters I know and love from the World of Warcraft comic book series from like, I don't even know, 15, 20 years ago almost now. But Logash, the kind of split personality of VALEERA, and then my beloved Brawl, Bloodfighter, and VALEERA as well. And they fought in some gladiatorial combat together, and now we're going to get to experience that again in Warrior with the Bloodfighters here. Logash is a 7-mana 7/7. Fabled means when you add him to your deck, you're also getting Brawl and VALEERA added to your deck for free. Logash also has Rush and Death Rattle. Summon a Bloodfighter from your hand. It gains +5/+5 and attacks a random enemy, which means these other Bloodfighters, if you have one in hand, come out as a 12/12 and immediately attack something that actually can be face. You're like able to clear the board and then kill this off. Like that's actually kind of nuts, right? That's potentially a lot of damage. Or just take like a good trade and get a big old pile of stats for free, basically, off this Death Rattle. Then you've got Brawl. He's got Taunt instead of Rush, and his Death Rattle is going to summon a Bloodfighter from your hand, give it +5/+5, and Taunt. So you get a big 12/12 Taunt body, assuming you have one in hand. And then VALEERA Bloodfighter is also 7-mana 7/7, elusive this time around. Her Death Rattle, summon a Bloodfighter from hand, give it +5/+5, and elusive. So I think there are actually some really cool chains possible here. Basically, the perfect order is you play Logash, you probably trade him in immediately with Rush, you hope, get a good clean trade out of him. He dies. That pulls Brawl into play, which is, like, hey, I had a 7/7 Rush that pulled a 12/12 Taunt. That's a good play. Like, that is a great play. And then, you hopefully your Brawl dies and the opponent just dealt with that, and then suddenly, crap, there's another 12/12 elusive VALEERA, and like maybe they can't deal with it because it's elusive, and then that one gets to punch face, and you've just like overwhelmed the opponent with kind of 3 straight crazy bodies that lined up well. Now the bad news is Logash is not always going to be first. Number one, I think this kind of goes a little sour if you get like VALEERA and then she pulls Brawl. Like that's not pulling Brawl is never bad necessarily, right? But if she pulls Brawl and then, Brawl pulls Logash, like it's fine. It's still not bad necessarily, right? But Logash is definitely not the one you want to go last because you want to get his, his effect as well with that random enemy attack, I think in particular. Also, the Rush might be kind of useless if the opponent is killing them for you and summoning it for you. Like that order is just notably worse, right? Or I guess Brawl into VALEERA also might be kind of awkward because it might be hard to keep the chain going. So basically, I think it's really important you get Logash first, and probably you want VALEERA last as well, just at the end of that chain, so you don't like break it, because Taunts and Rush give you that immediacy, basically. So I do think there are some moments and lines where this goes really well. Other times we haven't even talked about, they're not always going to be in hand. They have to be in hand. So you have to have enough draw to get all of these in hand if you want to keep these chains going. And to be very clear, like, of course, you're not playing these as just 7/7s. Like, that sucks. So you have to get them all in hand before any of them are exciting. And frankly, sometimes that's just not going to happen. Like, I'm sure there are some minion tutors who are actually going to look at a card in this set that is clearly designed to draw these specifically, but I don't know if it's enough on its own. So, I mean, look, it's really cool. I love this trio. I'm like rooting for this as much as possible. I don't think it's crazy that you could just toss this in as kind of the top end of some warrior decks that have enough time to get to turn 7 and have enough draw that kind of reliably fill the hand. But at the same time, I don't think they pack as much punch as many other legendaries in this cost range. Even just looking at what Warrior does right now, I'm thinking about like Bomb Warriors with Dr. Boom, right? Like Dr. Boom is doing way more in Bomb Warriors right now, resurrecting a couple mechs and popping off with kind of big crazy damage, right? It's bigger, it's more immediate. We have 7-mana plays that just do a lot, and this one is kind of just passive, kind of just sitting on the back foot a little bit. I don't think it's pushing quite as hard as most of the things we see for big 7-drop legendary style stuff, right? Inventor Boom is this guy's name, by the way. But when I'm looking at this deck, right, these are the big follow-up plays, right? Boom, resurrect mechs, attacking random enemies. Like, that's insane, right? Don't forget this deck also has Umbra, another 7-mana play. Like, boom, this is insane. Like, these both just like end the game. Logosh and crew just, you know, kind of stretch things on a little bit, have some threats on board, but just don't kill you. They aren't like win conditions necessarily. They're just kind of like solid building blocks towards the next thing, but they're not even aligned in a control fashion necessarily or an aggressive fashion. They just kind of are. They're like mid-range cards that don't really get you anywhere, I guess, if that makes sense. And I don't know that just the big stats and the occasional keywords and the unbroken chains of these are worth it, because that demands a lot of consistency and commitment that's just not always going to be there. So I'm sorry to say, I just don't think these are really all that good. All right, so Warrior's next legendary here is Chrono Lord Epoch. This is a 6-mana 7/5 dragon. With Battlecry, destroy all minions that your opponent played last turn. Now, played is a really key word there, because it's not summoned. And there will be lots of instances where your opponent summons stuff, and your Chrono Lord Epoch is just sitting there like, oh man, I don't really have anything good to destroy. You know, starships, for instance, they get summoned off the button, they don't get played. Like, you know, oh crap, like I can't kill that big crazy starship, which is, I know, lately my go-to example. I think there are other instances where, you know, it'll be fine. You know, the opponent plays Divine Shield, copy Ziliax, and they trade in a couple Ziliaxes. They have 2 6/5s left behind. Chrono Lord Epoch comes down, kills a couple 6/5s. Like, you know, it'll be fine. In other words, I think this card's totally okay. I think it's absolutely fine. I think a control warrior could probably make room for this. You know, maybe a dragon deck just squeezes this in as a pretty solid mid-range dragon as you're getting into some later game dragon game plans or whatever. Totally acceptable. But I will also say, I just did not think this card was a legendary. We get some of us creators get all the cards early. Like, I saw every card in the expansion like 2 weeks ago or something before the start of reveal season, right? And I was like scanning through, just reading everything, because, you know, I'm excited to see the cards. Like, I'm nerding out like everybody else. And I just scanned right past this and had no idea that it was a legendary. Like, I just didn't even process in my brain. Maybe I was caught up on how much I loved Logosh and stuff. Maybe I thought one of these was actually the other collectible legendaries. I don't remember. Just thought this was like a rare card, because this effect doesn't really scream legendary to me. I think if this was on an epic dragon, I don't think any of us would have blinked twice and said, hey, that feels like a legendary effect necessarily. I don't know. Just something about the artwork too is like, it's actually pretty great art. I really like the art a lot, frankly, but it just doesn't scream legendary to me for some reason. I don't know what it is. It just felt kind of flat, but that's no slight against the card, because honestly, I think it's totally okay. I think it's going to get played a little bit, be at the bottom of some deck lists, and you're going to feel absolutely fine about it. I don't think it's ever going to feel like it just wins you a game outright or has some crazy, you know, insane swing or whatever, but I think it's okay. So next up here is the Precursory Strike. This is a new 2-mana spell. It deals 3 damage, which, hey, 2 mana deal 3, classic recipe there. And it says if you're holding a minion that costs 5 or more, draw a minion, which, as I teased, we're going to get a card here that supports Logosh, drawing you minions. So, you know, as long as you have one of these, you can play your Precursory Strike and get the other one, and then, you know, play another one and get the other one, you know. Now, that sort of implies you only have 3 minions in your deck to get exactly all of your Blood Fighters, which I don't think a deck that's running Blood Fighters is ever going to have only 3 minions. So it's not a guarantee, you know, it might just increase the consistency a little bit as long as your deck has some big minions. And it doesn't say draw another minion that costs 5 or more. It could draw any minion, any low cost thing or whatever, right? If it drew another minion that costs 5 or more, then you can talk about some deck structuring that made more sense. If it did that, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is perfect support for Logosh. This is insane. I'll run a deck that's 1 to 4 and has this one big home run in it. And this is an awesome card. Now, that said, I actually still think this is an awesome card. I think this is still very, very powerful. 2 mana deal 3 baseline's awesome. And then, you know, a lot of decks have stuff that's 5 or more. We just talked about Ziliax. You know, every deck these days has, you know, some awesome big neutral card or big legendary win condition, outside of stuff that's hyper aggro. But warrior decks in particular tend to have 1 or 2 things, 7, 8, 9 mana or whatever. Elise in particular encourages you to have things at multiple higher mana costs, because you want to run Elise because she's so strong. Well, there you go, right? So as long as one of those is in hand, Precursory Strikes becomes just an insanely good card because it's 2 mana, deal 3, clean something up early, draw a minion along the way. Like, that's exactly the sort of thing you want in decks. So I think this is for sure going to get some play. So next up here is the Undefeated Champion, and this kicks off a little bit of a kind of big minion package, but it's the tiniest package. Heard that before. Joel. It is, but by that I mean it's only like 3 cards. Arguably, you know, you could say like Logosh and Brawl and Valeera could be part of a big minion package, but I don't think they play all that well. Undefeated Champion here is another big minion you're going to want to cheat out with this big minion package. This is an 8 mana 13/13 with Rush and a really big downside on its battle cry. Fill your opponent's board with random 1-cost minions, which generally is going to be a problem. I mean, you just don't want to give your opponent 7 free things potentially just to get yourself an 8 mana 13/13. There's nothing great enough about an 8 mana 13/13. Like, yeah, you get to kill one of them with Rush or whatever, but just one. You're going to leave behind 6 things, damage your guy. That's not a thing you want to play. You want to turn off this battle cry by summoning this into play for free. Which, you know, historically we've seen some bigger minions like this, which a 13/13 Rush when summoned into play through another mechanism, I shouldn't say for free, but, you know, through a cheaper card, that's not bad. 13/13's huge, and Rush is really nice, could take a swing, leave behind a threat. So this is a solid building block for a kind of big cheat deck like that. The question we're going to see and we're going to ask here as we get into this is, are the other pieces of this going to be worth it? So for instance, here is one of those said pieces, Gladiatorial Combat, 5 mana spell, summon a random minion from your deck, but also summon a 5/5 Tiger with stealth for your opponent, which, man, like, yeah, summoning a big 13/13 Rush from my deck is awesome, you know, amazing, great. 5/5 Tiger with stealth, that sucks. That's hard. Like, that's actually a scary thing. And I, particularly with this 2-card thing where, you know, like, this is literally the same guy in the artwork. You know, and he's fighting this tiger, but it's got stealth. You can't fight it. So it's like, it kind of sucks that you're just, you know, like, you don't have anything to attack with your 13/13. I mean, presumably there's another minion on board that you'll get to attack, but is it going to be better than a 5/5 stealth with Tiger on turn 5? Like, I don't know, man. I think I'm leaving them something better behind. You know, maybe I end up with like a 13/10 on board after I've traded into a 3/3, but, you know, I'm kind of helping them kill the 13/10 at that stage with this 5/5, or just hit me really hard with, you know, a Tiger and who knows what else that's trying to kill me, a bunch of Murlocs or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know, man. And you know, you're going to be running a lot of stuff. If you get a Valeera, you're kind of sad. If you get a Brawl, like, maybe that's okay. If you have another Blood Fighter in hand, that could be pretty cool, actually. If you get a Logosh, you're actually probably still kind of happy. You don't get to kill the 5/5 necessarily, but maybe something else. You know, I assuming one of the other Blood Fighters is in hand, I'd prefer the Logosh to the Undefeated Champion, but I still think ultimately, like, whatever cheat you're getting out of this, you know, you're kind of cheating 3 or 4 mana usually, you know, sometimes 5 if you got a big 10 drop or whatever. That much cheating, you're giving your opponent kind of 4 or 5 mana in value anyway. It doesn't really feel like much of a cheat anymore. It's going to be hard to make this feel worth it, in other words. I kind of like the idea that you could have like Chemical Spill in hand to cheat a Tortollan into play, and then have this to cheat a Tortollan from your deck into play. Depending on where the Tortollan is, you can kind of go 2 for 1 on that. That could be kind of nice. Just getting that big taunt wall started earlier. I don't know if that's worth it though. So ultimately, the price you're paying here to cheat is pretty tough with a 5/5 Tiger. I think that's a really big punish for this card in essence. All right, next up here is Stadium Announcer, a new 4 mana 3/3 dragon with Rewind and Battle Cry. Both players equip a random weapon. Give yours +1/+1. So symmetrical effect here. You're getting a 3/3 body. Yeah, you'd say that's kind of 2.5 mana worth of stuff right there. And then, you know, getting a random weapon. Now, that could be awesome and big, but, you know, you run the risk of giving your opponent potentially also an awesome and big weapon. You're obviously hoping to net a much better weapon, and then it gets even betterer thanks to the additional +1/+1, which is probably worth another mana or so. So, you know, you're kind of expecting, because you're getting a 3/3 and that +1/+1, I think you're kind of expecting a baseline okay trade there. Like, you've netted enough upside that it's almost arguably worth about 4 mana, and then trying to use the rewind to find a better roll than your opponent. I think if you get something that's level with your opponent, you probably hold. If you get something worse than your opponent, you try to rewind and roll better into it, right? From a strategy standpoint. That's cool. I do think this is slightly better than a lot of the rewind cards we've seen. This one doesn't feel like as disastrously bad to me. Like some of them just seemed completely pointless. This one's still kind of a hard fit from a like synergy or deck fit standpoint. It's like, what am I playing this in and why? Does it go in a dragon deck? What's a weapon deck? Now there is one interesting use case for this, which is a tech card where you use this to break and disrupt your opponent's weapons. If you're playing like a quest mage, you know, who has equipped their weapon, they've gotten it online, you want to break their weapon, you slam Stadium Announcer. That's a way to do that. You know, we have other tech cards against weapons. We still have Rust Rot Viper or whatever. I think I'd rather just run that if I'm really worried about weapons. I mean, this one kind of does its own thing. Tech cards are tough, but I like tradable too. So, I mean, maybe if you have enough reasons to do all of that, like you have a dragon deck with some weapon synergies and you care about the tech card because it's relevant in the meta, like maybe all that comes together to make this okay. I think a lot of decks will say, yeah, this is fine. If I randomly generate this, I'll take a flyer on it or whatever. But making room for it in your deck list is going to be really tough, I think. I just, you know, it doesn't stand out enough in any direction or for any synergy that I'm like, yeah, I really need this. And that generally means cards like that just kind of get left behind. Next up here is the Heir of Hereafter, a 5-mana 2/6 dragon with Taunt and Battlecry. Gain +2/+2 for each damaged minion, which could actually be a lot of stats, right? If you soften up your opponent's board on turn 4, they got 4 or 5 Murlocs, and you know, whirlwind them in some way or another. I don't actually know what kind of whirlwind effects we have in Warrior, but there's always a few of those things floating around, right? A few little ping effects. Yeah, we do have Ominous Nightmare actually still. There's been this kind of like subtle Enrage package where they keep printing 1 or 2 Enrage style cards every set that just hasn't really gotten anywhere. Stuff like this though, for instance, you know, you could in some cases, because this counts both enemy and friendly minions, I wouldn't be shocked to see this thing gain like 10/10 or something sometimes on turn 5 with some setup, which a 12/16 taunt on turn 5 is big enough that I'm thinking about it, you know? Like, man, that's a big taunt. A lot of minion-based decks would get shut down by that, frankly. I think, as always, the question just then becomes, like, how am I building my deck into this? How am I making sure I've got enough damaged minions? Am I running stuff like that Whirlwind card? What else goes in the deck? Is it a Dragon package? Is it an Enrage package? If it's an Enrage package, like, am I keeping things on board enough on turn 4 that are damaged that this comes down in a big way? How often does this whiff where it's just a 2/6 because all my stuff got cleared and then I'm just playing a 2/6 dragon and that's completely garbage? Is this good enough if I wait till later? If I wait till turn 8 when I can kind of combo it with other things all at once? Is it worth it in that world? I start asking every time you ask a little question like that, it's a little, you know, knock against the card in my mind. And I think it's going to be tough. That said, sometimes it's 10/16 or whatever, and I'm like, man, 10/16 is awfully big. It's just building that deck around it and finding those moments where it hits exactly on turn 5 where it's going to make the biggest impact. I think that's going to be really tough to do. So I can't see this actually being a great card. I think maybe okay is this one's ceiling. So next up is For Glory. We've got Logash, Brawl, and Valeera. Once again, 5-mana spell here. Draw 2 cards. Costs 1 less for each minion your opponent controls, which I think this is great. I think this is very often easily going to get down to 2 mana, where it probably starts to feel reasonable already. And I think there will be a lot of instances this goes right down to 0 mana. And feels amazing. And we're actually even going to see a card in this video. Is it next? It is. That's going to help you discount that even more. Unleash the Crocolisk. This 1-mana spell gains you 10 armor and summons 2/2/3 beasts for your opponent. Well, that's insane. Gain 10 armor and discount this card draw by 2. And, you know, they presumably already have a few things when you're doing this. So it's a good way to gain 10, draw 2 cards, and set them up for a brawl because you're putting extra bodies in the brawl as well. So I think, frankly, a lot of times this is going to work at a baseline. Sometimes you're going to set it up and it's going to feel amazing. I think this is just a great card draw card for Warrior. Just fantastically good for control decks that are maybe not only control decks, even faster decks that still expect to have minion metas out there might utilize this, but definitely control decks using this in combination with that next card looks amazing. So Unleash the Crocolisks, as we said, 1 mana spell, gain 10 armor, and summon 2/2/3 beasts for your opponent. Now, I initially was like, I don't know if this is quite worth it. Like, yeah, it's a great brawl enabler. I think it works really well with that other kind of whirlwindy thing that spins your armor. What is that card called? Boy, sorry guys, I should know the names of all the cards, but there's so many these days. It's a 4 mana spell, I think. What's it called? Is it 5 mana spell? No, Shell NATO. This one on your 4 mana spell, right? This is a really nice combo too. Gain 10. You spend 5 of it right away to just clear everything up. You know you're going to clear those beasts, right? So whether it's Brawl or Shell NATO, you have a couple 2-card combos there that gain you some life and clear stuff. And like, that's good. Really obvious 2-card combo. I was going to say, like, 2-card combos these days don't feel as good to me as they used to. But I think there's enough card draw that it works. Now, and particularly that alone, I was like iffy, but once you see For Glory, you're like, oh yeah, okay. This is now not only enabling the removal, it's also enabling the card draw. That's enough hooks on this. I'm confident this card's going to look really, really good. So I was iffy, and then this really just sold the deal. I think this is a 1-2 punch that's amazing, and Control Warrior decks will slot this little package in as a great way. Now, there's another bonus to this too, which is disruption to pools. Putting minions in your opponent's pool, stuff like Protoss Priest right now, resurrecting all their little junk. These are 2 drops that go into the priest's pool, disrupt all their resurrects, and that can have some upside occasionally as well. So actually quite a few things I like about this card. Not to mention, like, I think sometimes you'll play this for 6 armor. It's like turn 4, I just don't have anything to do. I want to brawl on turn 5. I'm just going to summon the Crocolisks. Like, yeah, I'll take 4 extra damage, but that's fine. I'm still netting 6, and then I brawl next turn anyway, right? Like, I think it's actually fine sometimes to just gain 6 off this, basically. That's where they have the Bloodlust and kill you, but, you get the idea. So anyway, I like this card. I think it's good. All right, finally, our last card is Slow Motion, a new 2-mana spell. Your opponent's cards cost 1 more next turn, which we've seen a few of these cost increasers historically. Classically Lotheb, a lot of like spell impacting ones too, like Cult Neophyte and Resistance Aura, the Aura for Paladin. I think, is that currently in the game right now? Actually, I think so, right? We've had some moments where Cult Neophyte was good, but it was mostly when it was getting bounced a lot and like really increasing costs. Resistance Aura, I don't think has ever been impactful. Certainly Lotheb was, but the same thing with the Cult Neophyte. It was when it was increasing the cost of cards by a lot that it felt the best. Now, those are all spells. This is cards, so this could slow down some turns altogether. Like sometimes, if your spells are disrupted, you pivot to minions, or maybe vice versa. But when everything's disrupted, life could get a bit more awkward. I think there are moments where this could break up key turns, stopping the Fyrakk or the Ysera or whatever, Naralax stuff. Like, hey, I need to slow that down for a minute and buy myself some time. Get up to my, turn 10 hydration station or whatever. I just need this brief moment before they go ham. That's not insane to me. I think there will be other instances where it feels like maybe this just didn't have a big enough of an impact and you're not really sure when to slot this into a turn because you're like trying to play your biggest stuff. But I don't know. I could see some like turn 7s where it's just like, yeah, I'm just doing this in Brawl and, just buying some time and then, recovering later. Even like a Quest Warrior, just need a minute to get to my quest completion. This maybe buys me that window. It's just, is it worth the slot? Would you rather run more removal? Would you rather run more survivability as opposed to this kind of unpredictable disruption? And, I don't know. I feel like we just haven't seen cards like this working a lot lately. There's Customs Enforcer's been pretty good, I guess. But again, situationally, and it's a bit bigger of a disruption too at a cost of 2. I'm just really torn on this. Like, I actually think this is going to get cut a lot. I think it's just going to be hard to find the moments for it. I can see them lining up, but it's not just, magically generating those in a vacuum hits. It's, what am I putting in the deck? And is this making the cut? No, I've got other things I want to do. I'd rather have armor gain. I'd rather have removal, and Slow Motion probably gets left behind, as much as it hurts me to say that. All right, that said, let's go ahead and rate these cards from 1 to 5 stars. Logash Bloodfighter is a 2-star card. Chrono Lord Epoch is a 3-star card. I would totally give him 3.5 if that was a thing. Precursory Strike is a 4-star card. Undefeated Champion is a 2-star card. Gladiatorial Combat is a 2-star card. Stadium Announcer is a 3-star card. Heir of Hereafter is a 3-star card. For Glory is a 4-star card. Unleash the Crocolisks is a 4-star card.
Slow Motion is a 3-star card.
Yeah, there you go. That's the Warrior set. Man, I wish I liked Logosh more. I just see War Golems, man. Like, should I have given it 3 stars? I don't know. I think it's worse than Chronolord Epoch, and I don't really think this guy's a 4-star card. Maybe he's a 4-star card and this is a 3-star card. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I just see War Golems a lot of the time because you're just not always going to have these in hand, and sometimes they're going to sit there awkwardly, and like the game's going to end because you just played Valeera. I don't know. Maybe Brawl and Logosh are good enough that it's a 3-star card. I don't know. I already said 2, so I'm gonna stick to 2, but maybe it's 3 stars. You guys let me know what you think. Are these actually better than I think? Let me know down below what you think about this Warrior set. Either way, I'm excited to see these folks in my Hearthstone. So yeah, a couple reviews left, guys. We're almost done. I think we got Mage and Warlock, and that's it. So stay tuned for those. Thanks so much as always for watching, and until next time, game on.